Yo, people, welcome back. We are here. It's We Can Be Heroes. It's your boy, your host, John Torado. Of course, we're here to talk about something that we haven't talked about in quite some time, or honestly, ever. We weren't over here in the movie era before we started this young episode here. We Can Be Heroes is here to talk about some Black Widow. Little bro, Matt Torado, how we doing?
I'm hanging in there. My allergies are acting up for this particular episode, so expect a lot of sniffles and sneezes throughout the episode for today. So, fair warning to the viewers out there. I apologize.
He's just very emotional about how great of a movie Black Widow was. We all know it. He doesn't want to say it, but maybe I'll convince him by the end of this episode to really agree with what I agreed with. Right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, maybe
Mm-hmm.
not, but look, we have not done a Marvel movie yet for We Can Be Heroes. Obviously, we started post the major COVID hit, right, where a lot of the movies were canceled or pushed back. And we had the episode a few weeks ago where we talked about our first experience back into a theater in general. We watched A Quiet Place Part Two. Not really hero related, but in a sense it is, right? Because every movie essentially has a hero depending on the type of genre it is. Uh, but the Marvel experience is different. For those who haven't watched before or listened to another past episode, Matt, older brother Angel, my wife, and our friend Grant. We have a Marvel crew, right? We go out, we watch every movie together, or have for quite some time, and we haven't done that. It's been since 2019 that we've been able to actually do that. So let's go over that real quick. What I mean for me, I felt like I was on cloud nine. So I mean, for those who don't know, that was my birthday. Is the day we went to watch it, July 8th.
Indeed.
All I wanted was literally to just eat sushi, which Matt tried for the first time ever. We'll get your experience on sushi in a bit.
I did.
Um, and watch Marvel, and that's what we did. And you know, it felt super weird to have a fully packed theater. I think A Quiet Place Part Two, it was still in the midst of New York's kind of strict COVID guidelines where they couldn't really fill the theater. This was filled, like all restrictions off. Like there were maybe 5 to 10 seats open, and they were just random sporadic seats where people didn't just get a seat, right? Um, so for me, I just to see the Marvel credit rolling and to see the trailers of the movies we know that are coming, and I mean all of it combined, it's just it was like nostalgic, even though it's not too long ago, right? Nostalgia really goes supposed to go further back than a year or two, but that's what it felt like. I felt like in heaven, like how the theater is where I'm meant to be, and I will never find myself watching a Disney or a new released Marvel movie on Disney Plus because the experience in itself elevates the movie right away, right? And then you rate it based on the content within the movie right away, which is we'll go over our quick reviews and then we'll go kind of deeper into the movie itself. Um, I think that's why I pretty rated it pretty high myself, Matt. And I know you weren't really high on my rating, but the movie experience, going back to the theater for the first time, really helped elevate that for me. So, what was yours like? I mean, how did it feel to be back in the theater and watch a Marvel movie?
Yeah, look, I said from the beginning it was a surreal experience to be back within that setting to watch a Marvel movie. The last one is a little over 2 years ago. A little movie called Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
And from that point on, we waited quite a while. There were multiple pushbacks from different kinds of projects, from WandaVision to Loki, Falcon, obviously Black Widow, which has finished production prior to the pandemic. So Marvel definitely had to shift around projects within their schedule, which has proven effectively. Uh, all of the projects that have released thus far in this COVID, era, dare I say, has been successful. Black Widow made, if you're not sure if you're aware, made $215 million this opening weekend, um, both on Disney Plus as well as the box office. And I believe the box office made more money actually, which is a testament to the theatrical experience.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I think what definitely made the experience more favorable is I was able to surround myself with those who are fond of the MCU movies. Now, in regards to what I thought about the movie overall, it's a different story, but I agree it was definitely a welcome change instead of sitting home and watching through my TV screen or a laptop.
Right. Right. I agree with you on that. And as far as rating, back on the OTS website page, I did a quick rating right after I watched the movie with Derek Myers, the one who obviously helps operate OTS here, runs it for that matter. I'll give my quick rating again. Personally, I rated it 8.5 out of 10, and my comment, I guess, with that was Scarlett Johansson was completely outshined by Florence Pugh. Like Florence Pugh's uh, like dynamic presence on screen was leaps and beyonds better, in my opinion. And this might be a hot take, better than anything Scarlett has given us. I'm sorry. Like I loved Scarlett and I thought she was a great
No,
Black Widow. I think Florence Pugh was better than Scarlett as a
in the
performer,
in
as
the movie or as a performer within the MCU.
a performer within the MCU. There's
No,
nothing.
I disagree.
There's nothing that completely. This is my rating. I mean, I get it, but
Yeah,
um, there's nothing that Scarlett has given me. Maybe Endgame's performance, I guess, right? Like the
I was gonna
sacrifice
say
obviously is
Endgame.
impactful.
Anything else you can argue? I can make an argument for it.
Anything besides Endgame. So I'll give you that. 100% Endgame was probably the best, if you want to call for it, or Yelena, if you want to call her Black Widow now. Obviously, Endgame's performance was probably better than any Black Widow performance. In this specific movie, though, Yelena slash Florence Pugh absolutely outshined Scarlett, in my opinion.
Oh yeah,
I
absolutely. I
mean,
would
I
definitely
I
agree.
felt
Yeah,
I wouldn't even say connected. Like connect is like emotional thing, but I felt like I guess I mean in a way it's kind of connected. Like I just feel like she did better in this movie, which maybe might have been the point. And we're gonna get into specifically what we did and didn't like about the movie, but maybe this wasn't really supposed to be. It is, but maybe it really wasn't really supposed to be a send off. you know, it seemed like a setup more than a send off, and I'm sure you know why too. Um, and then of course we'll get into the post credit scene that Mr. Matthew kind of predicted himself. So it's super exciting and so happy to be back in the theater and so happy to go through all this, man. But Matt, you want to do a quick rating and a quick comment before we get deep into the movie and talk about it?
yeah, sure. So, I was struggling to even give this movie a 5 out of 10. But honestly, I think I am definitely a four, close to a three. The only reason why I am not giving this movie a three is because it is not. There's nothing inherently bad about the film. It is another formulaic, generic MCU film that fails to justify existence. The only reason why this film was made to begin with is not necessarily a way to send off the character Natasha Romanoff, but merely to set up future installments in the MCU. Nothing in this film was remotely compelling. Not a single character had an emotional arc. Like there is no arc given to Natasha or any of the characters introduced in the movie. They were just there. Natasha was an observer of events throughout every single moment up until the third act, where she actually has something to do, which is face off against the main villain, Taskmaster or Drakov, Ray Winstone.
Drake off, right?
Um, so yeah, I mean like I want to be positive as best I can, but I just can't stand this kind of Marvel movie anymore. I want that's why I'm excited for Shang-Chi, Eternals, etc. Is I want there to be exciting stories being told instead of going back to what we saw before. And Black
So
Widow is a character I don't necessarily like to begin with, so I already had this preconceived bias going in, but that's sort of
so
that's
I mean that's so for me that's where you and I differ, right? So we're literally, as you guys can see, we're total opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to rating. I don't see this as a Black Widow film. I see this as a Yelena film. Like this is, if you look at it from the perspective of this is supposed to be a setup for the future, I love the movie. If you look at it as this is solely to honor Black Widow, I would hate it. Like that, because one, I don't think we really needed that. We knew her ending. There was no suspense throughout this movie, right? Like Natasha can't die. We know this. Like she dies in Endgame. She does not die. So it, look at it from, it's all, life is about perspective, right? How you perceive things is how you either do or don't enjoy it. For me, looking at it as the setup for future MCU films and projects, totally on the eight to 8.5 range for me. But I see why I see exactly what you're saying. So don't get me wrong. Yes, another like clone of Winter Soldier, right? In a way, and or similar in a sense to
I
that.
would, yeah. I mean, I would argue like a more inferior version because
Well,
there's
no, what clone in a sense of like what they're trying to do for the film, right?
w-
That
yeah, exactly.
failing
So
at is one thing, but they tried to do
yeah,
similar to what they did with
so
Winter
I
Soldier.
think there's potential in the themes they could portray, but none of them were what like, came into fruition. But again, this is sort of ties deeper into the they're definitely in the spoiler territory. So for those who have not watched the film yet, highly recommend to click off the video but come back. We appreciate it.
Mm.
So yeah. In any case, I would say I respect your opinion. You in turn do the same. But I mean, I went in and I knew for a fact that this was not going. I it's exactly what I expected. It's just not a Marvel movie, and my opinion will not affect the success of the franchise at all.
Do you think the when is a concern for you, like as far as when it's released? So let me ask you this: this comes out right after Civil War. Where do you have your rating?
After Civil War. Oh, actually, I am very happy you mentioned that. So the fact that we already know Natasha's future is the reason why none of these scenes are emotionally resonant because in every sequence there's a lack of tension. We it's continuity wise, she has to survive unless for whatever reason they pull the whole,
Right.
she's a clone or this entire time the sister used like a like the face swapping technology, etc. I think my rating will probably just be a five. I think again that like I would look at
Oh,
this
that and that's, I mean, that's decent, right?
yeah.
Like a
So
five.
I would go up to a five just because at least this picks up immediately after the events of Civil War. There are genuine repercussions for the
Shows something
character.
that's,
I just
yeah.
don't think like the movie would still be like let's just say the movie released in 2016 in its purest form. Nothing is improved upon. This honestly feels like a 2016 Marvel movie or earlier, where Marvel was sort of experimenting with their characters and then wanted to put them in these different environments.
It's a
From my
tool.
perspective,
I hear you. So like even though I gave it an 8.5, I'm like not even mad you gave it a five, or five if it came out back then, or three now. Like I'm not mad about it. I think 100% this was too little, too late. I personally think Marvel slash Disney were scared to give her film. Like they didn't know. They were like, well, will this be successful at this current moment after we had come out with such a bang of a movie in Civil War? You know what I mean? I feel like they were scared that it wouldn't make them money. That I think that's why they didn't bring it out back then. They could have done
yeah,
all of this back then. Like there's nothing in this movie that tells me like, well, I mean, except the post credit scene, but that, I mean, they could have done that later. Like who cares about that? You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like it's just, they were scared. They were scared to have Black Widow be a centerpiece of the movie, and shame on them for it, right? Because I think now it bitters it for a lot of people like you. Like there's probably people that give it a one. I wouldn't be surprised, a one out of 10, 0.5 out of 10, because
yeah. So,
too little, too
oh
late for
yeah,
Natasha, and not to mention it's not only too little, too late. Where I didn't mind it, because that's why I have it higher, is I loved Yelena and a little bit of her backstory, and I love that it was supposed to set up the future. You did too little, too late, and then doubled down by not really giving Natasha the, the, the limelight. Like in a sense, Natasha really had no purpose. Like She was
Like I said, she was
she
in
had
a.
no. I mean, aside from being a Black Widow, she really had no purpose. She was done. Like Dracoff didn't even really. So we'll get into the movie, I guess, a little bit. Dracoff didn't give a shit about her. If he cared, he would have tried to kill her the 10 years prior. I mean,
Yeah,
she's
like
been
Black
or eight
Widow.
years in that sense.
At the first, so let's go into spoiler territory. So what I will say about the first 20 minutes, they I would argue they were excellent. We had a chance to see sort of not Natasha at a young age with a younger Elena. We have a chance to see them interact with Red Guardian, Rachel Weisz's character.
Right,
It brings definitely adds more emotion and character to that of Natasha.
right.
So when we see her years later, then she's purposely isolated, only for her to reunite age later. So the first 20 minutes were fine, and then I was thinking in my back of my mind, wow, this is actually rather well shot. This is fairly well acted. The child actors are not painfully annoying, and the movie went on for 40 minutes, and I'm saying like the plot hasn't started yet. Like I know what the plot's going to be, but it objectively has not. If you were to look get a stopwatch, the moment the first scene shows up, the plot doesn't kick in until 40 minutes into the movie, where we
It's just
actually
kind of
see
crazy.
where we see right, because I mean that like I know we had like the very long title sequence, which is very creative. This is actually the first time Marvel has ever done one before. um we get a chance to see sort of how the Black Widows participated in these different missions over the course of the history, essentially.
Right.
It was very cool looking visuals. I wasn't a huge fan of the song choice, but again, I'm not the biggest music sort of genius, so to speak. So um, that's an issue that's like any issue is subjective. Um, but yeah, it was just yeah, I found it very like the pacing was rough, and then there wasn't like a second act. And to go more into detail, like the first 40 minutes is necessary setup. It's like a setup is necessary for any movie. Obviously, you need a chance to sort of know the characters, the situations they find themselves in, and then they free Red Guardian. Red Guardian goes to Rachel Weisz's, like Red Guardian leads Yelena and Natasha to Rachel Weisz's house. They get caught by Taskmaster, and then the dirt act begins. So there's no second act. Like it honestly feels like this one long act, and it's more like then this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. So it's just I don't know. They could have easily paced this and structured this story way better. But again, that might not be bothersome for people. They're just looking for Black Widow to kick ass, and that's fine. At the end of the day, you love Marvel, that's great. You know,
Yeah, you got something to watch. I mean, you know, I just
feel free to rant. By the way,
they,
you can
they've
go ahead.
really yeah they've kind of just because I'm not really focused on the fact that this is supposed to be a Natasha send off. Um, that's why I like the movie. I liked a lot of the things throughout with the humor, with Red Guardian, with oh my god, what's the mother's name? I can't remember at the moment. Loved Yelena, loved the guy that supplied all the helicopters and I can't remember his name either. Um,
Yeah. Well, did they ever reveal his name?
I don't even think they did actually.
Because I was trying
That's
to
right.
remember, but
And it was there was a lot of great humor throughout, fitting humor at the time that they came, the typical Marvel humor, I guess you want to call it. Um, they've really done Natasha wrong, man. If you think throughout, I guess throughout the MCU, like she's been kind of little pieces, bits and pieces of different movies. Obviously, the Avengers, Cap Soldier, Iron Man. Um, she finally gets her, well, one, she gets her death in Endgame, and it's completely overshadowed by Stark, right? I mean, everybody care no offense to Natasha, but like everybody cared more about Stark's death than hers. So that's already an overshadow, and then you finally come out with something that's supposed to kind of give us that send off that we thought we'd want, and it wasn't enough. It wasn't really a send off. Like it was like, hey, this happened before she went to help Steve the get out of the prison. You know what I mean? Like there was, I didn't, I didn't like that. But it doesn't really affect my rating. You know what I mean? That's I think that's where. So you let that affect your rating, which is fine. I, everything you're saying, I totally agree with, except the number because I care more about the other stuff. That's why mine's is higher.
Sure.
Simply that. Simply that. I'm pissed and upset with everything you are. Trust me. I just like I loved Yelena as a character. Well, Florence Pugh and then Yelena as a character.
Yeah.
I think Red Guardian's definitely going to be in a project in the future as well. Like he David Harbour's awesome. We all love David Harbour. I mean, who doesn't for sure? Um, I don't know, man. I got some issues. One thing I did notice, and like I don't know. Did you ever watch Red Sparrow with Jennifer Lawrence?
Um, Red Sparrow with Jennifer Lawrence. No,
Have you heard of it?
but I have heard about the movie. Yes.
Eerily similar to this Black Widow movie, bro. Like
No, it's okay. So want to know is
it's
even
kind of
funnier.
weird.
Yeah. So definitely feel free to like compare the two because I'm actually curious. So,
Right.
do you remember Hobbs and Shaw?
Yes.
Um, the Black Widow and Hobbs and Shaw are very similar, if you think about it. But obviously, I'll sort of explain why, and then you could sort of compare Red Sparrow and Black Widow with each other. So, for those who don't know, of course, John, you can go explain what Red Sparrow is, and then how it connects to sort of the plot beats that
No, it's
I
just this is typical like
uh,
mind control stuff that they kind of went with Black Widows. I had no idea the Black Widows were actually mind controlled chemicals. That's new. Like we were never told that in the past.
yeah,
And
that was
how was Scarlet or I keep saying Scarlet? How was Natasha able to get out of it? Like, it wasn't just Shield. Shield must, I guess, Shield kidnapped
yeah
her
there
and got
yeah
her out of it somehow. Like, I don't.
there's some weird plot holes like apparently the girl like carrying like all the vials inside of her or inside of her Jesus the suitcase um like knows Yelena and then like she tosses this smoke on her on Yelena in the beginning of the movie and then she's like oh my goodness my sister and then like says oh you need to take this and it's just like before that she was a Black Widow
Right.
if you think about it, like she was literally her objective was to take out
I think
this
so.
virus.
I think the chemical maybe the chemical stuff came into play way after Natasha was brought into the program.
You think so? Yeah,
Right. You know what I mean? It
that's a
kind of
fair
makes
explanation.
sense. Because why would she sub like the argument then would be Yelena was always under the chemical and wouldn't care about a sister because the chemical like
Yeah,
it gets too confusing. Plot holes like that really annoy the hell out of me. Gotta be
yeah,
honest.
like the whole Loki thing where the TVA pretty much undermined everything that happened. At
Here's
least what we thought undermined
so here's
everything that
something
happened
that
there.
that I thought throughout. I think this would have been better as a Disney Plus series.
So I it's funny because I was thinking that and like after the fact, like would I have liked um the content better in a 6 hour format? Um, Probably. I I don't know. It's just again, bro. Like it was just too little, too late. Because I'm still going to think about her death in Endgame.
Right.
You
They
know,
sh-
so
they should have gone with my idea and had Natasha be a clone this whole time, and and she never actually died in Endgame, and she actually died in this movie. I don't know. Like
yeah. Um,
I got my issues with the two for
yeah.
sure.
But for so actually for the viewers at home, do you want to explain sort of what your because you're what happens in the movie can kind of feel your theory. I don't necessarily agree with it, but do you want to elaborate more on sort of why you thought she was a clone, and if that was going to be the case, how
Yeah,
that could
I
happen.
so I just assume it was just a random theory. So basically, I basically presumed that Yelena would be the one that acted as Black Widow after this movie. So everything that happened after Civil War, which essentially Elena with the clone face and stuff like that. I just wanted hope that Black Widow didn't actually die because in Endgame, I thought it was ridiculous that trust me, Tony Stark's death got me like anybody else. That she was so overshot. I mean, you got to think, bro. Stark died 45, 50 minutes after she did. Like they almost gave no time for people to mourn that death. Like, I mean, she's just as intricate a part of that of the Avengers as Stark, right? You know, they gave the little scene, I guess, when they were all upset about it, and Hulk throws a fucking bench, like, ooh, whoop de doo. Like, Stark gets a whole send off with his fake ass heart. Like, that they knew they effed up there, and I think they felt this movie was needed to right the ship, but then did not right the ship by making this not really a Natasha Romanoff film, and but yes and no. So we get the Red Room, we get uh, a little background into Budapest, right? You know, Budapest has been a major thing that was talked about but never explored between Clint Barton and Natasha Romanoff, and still never was. So someone made a good point. Del Reed, he's somebody that's uh, runs a company called 26 Shirts and basically is like the king of Buffalo when it comes to community
Mm,
outreach, things
mhm.
like that. I follow him on Twitter. We've had him on one of the podcasts for different podcasts I do. He made a good point. Like he doesn't did before he watched the movie. He said, "I don't know if I really want to delve into Budapest. Like that's one of those things that's cool that they know about that we don't need to know about." I agree. I think that was one
Yeah.
thing I didn't really need to see because Budapest had nothing to do with
The
the Black Widow program.
Yeah, I mean it had relevance for so again spoilers. The only relevance it had was explaining Dracov's daughter's death. Because
Right.
Dracov obviously survives basically an explosive trap that Clint and Natasha apparently set up.
Yeah,
And
but
then
so that
yeah,
so I real quick, sorry not to interrupt you, but
no,
um
you go right ahead.
the
I did not talk.
that scene that's a good explanation as to explains the Taskmaster and things like that.
Hmm.
Um, but that's not what Clint and Natasha were referring to. When they're fighting, Clint says, "This reminds you," or Natasha says, "This reminds in Avengers." Blah, blah. Natasha says, "This reminds you of Budapest." She goes, Me and you remember Budapest much differently." We're talking, that itself had to be some kind of battle of war
Like
between
after,
some
like probably
military. Yeah, it's
yeah, like an aftermath of
it has nothing to
the
do
yeah.
with the bombing like that. So I'm glad. So what I'm trying to say is, I'm kind of tangenting a little bit.
No, we're good.
Um, I'm glad it was never explained in detail. I'm okay. Maybe it does get explained in Hawkeye coming up, which we're probably gonna get that. But for now, keep little testing those two and let it be.
Yeah. Um, and I am happy you mentioned Taskmaster. Which interestingly enough is probably it sounds like the most forgettable aspect of the movie. Um,
I thought he. Well,
so
I thought Taskmaster would have a much larger part
yeah,
to the whole.
and that is sort of what I wanted to get your perspective on. Were you a fan of the choice they made for Taskmaster? And if not, how do you think they can correct what they did in the movie?
So
So,
I think you and I talked about this obviously after the movie. For me, I was really excited for Taskmaster because I know the history of Taskmaster, right? I can't remember his name, but the guy that is the Taskmaster in the comics has a photographic memory, and that's how he learns to fight like all the Avengers or any of the characters that he fights. It's Black Widow's main villain, right? That's her like the Mandarin to Tony Stark in the comics, Taskmaster to Black Widow. They've always had a thing for years and years and years in the comics. Um, there was really none of that. Like we get that. So so this is totally a spoiler thing. We're gonna put spoiler when we post the video. Um, Dracoff is the main villain, obviously, of Black Widow. He is the one that runs the Red Room / the Black Widow program, and his daughter was killed by Natasha and Clint Barton. well, presumably so, back in Budapest, and we go and get a reveal that the Taskmaster is the adult version under mind control of Dracov's daughter. And Matt and I talked about this. I am 100% okay with I guess switching the gender up, right? Like that's fine. But they by so love it. I'm okay with it. I more than okay with it. I accept him more than anything. They nerfed her. They nerfed her because by letting her use technology to be Taskmaster, it undermined who and what Taskmaster was. Taskmaster was a straight tactician. If you guys have played Spider-Man PS4, you'll see it. Spider-Man PS4, there's a side missions with the Taskmaster. He learns every punch, every move, every kick. That's just in the game. But in the comics or the Marvel Avengers video game, the man is a beast. Like straight from the mind. That's what makes Taskmaster so cool, right? And they nerfed her in a sense that okay, technology is going to teach you how to do this instead. And I get it. The MCU is super oh my god, I can say it, technologically driven.
Sure.
And I get that, and it makes things a little more realistic. But Taskmaster, you can give him technology, or her in this sense, technology to fight. Sure, I mean obviously they're going to need a jetpack to fly and the sword and all that stuff. I get it, guns, all it's fine. But to undermine what Taskmaster really is and nerf the female version of Taskmaster, it undermines the comics. It undermines what Taskmaster means is essentially supposed to be. So my theory, and I think I talked to you about this too. Maybe that's not the real Taskmaster. Maybe the Taskmaster that's known is is the one that's known in the comics. And sorry, for love of me, cannot remember his name. Um, and they got the idea of Taskmaster from him, and then just gave her the technology to try to do the same thing because she didn't have the photogenic memory. That could be a possibility, right? Like to
Yeah.
this point, again, throughout the film, we get the typical Marvel, final act, the yada yada, so on and so forth. We find out Dracov's daughter was under mind control as well, and they spike her with the same chemical that got Yelena out of it in a sense of the programming, I guess. Uh, and suddenly Dracov's daughter is cured, and Taskmaster doesn't want to be angry anymore. It's like that Taskmaster never turns good. Let's get this straight. Like at times he can be some semblance of an anti-hero, but he is not good at all. Like he has clear intent to not be good.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't. What are your thoughts as far as Taskmaster? I mean, nerfed, not
Um.
nerfed,
So like,
ridiculous.
uh, w- you said everything to a T. Um. Like, I'm just disappointed. Like the reveal was something I should have known right when they had mentioned Dreykov's daughter.
Right.
And then when they mentioned her again, I was thinking, oh no, because I knew for a fact is based on the body structure of the character, Taskmaster was gender flipped. Not I do not have an issue with such. As long as you treat the character with respect and falls in line with the comic, they didn't do that. They disrespected the character. They nerfed her to a T in the movie, and her reliance on technology rather than photographic memory. It's again, like you said, it contradicts what fans of the character, see of uh, see of her or him from the comics.
Right.
So yeah, it just I that made me upset.
I
I
wasn't
was I, I
wasn't a fan of that whatsoever.
I was yeah, that was sad. Um, but uh, all Marvel has to do is pull another Mandarin situation, and who knows? Later down the line, we'll have Taskmaster go up against Yelena, the real Taskmaster against Yelena or Hawkeye. You know,
We
who
don't.
knows?
We just don't need that. I mean, like I don't want another Mandarin situation. Give us the characters as they're meant to be. I don't care about gender. That's you can do whatever you want. I mean, that doesn't make a difference to me. But states of source material besides that. Don't nerf. And I think we talked about this in the last episode of the Loki review. I was happy that it seemed like Marvel was leaning towards buffing characters again. Like
Yeah, absolutely.
Scarlet's powers have been completely increased, right? Loki's powers they're increasing. They're it seems like Enchantress is essentially Sylvie is trying to teach him how to enchant more and use his powers.
Yeah,
I mean, we
absolutely,
see classic
absolutely.
Loki use powers, the similar, if not better powers than what Scarlet Witch was able to do.
Yeah,
I
and
would say Scarlet Witch was actual reality. Loki was an illusion, but still, they're buffing characters. Like I think Kevin Feige is like, you know what, we're done. We don't need the nerf. Like Captain Marvel is going to have the full
yeah,
powers, which I think is going to help improve that film. Scarlet Witch is going to be super improved. I think Doctor Strange is going to be even stronger. Um, I love it. Like
yeah.
give us the full power. You know what you do if you think that these characters are overpowered, then give us strong villains. Doctor Dumas, right?
Yes.
Kang the Conqueror,
Oh,
reality altering, super powerful. Need Captain Marvel at their top of the strength to have a slim pickings of a chance
absolutely. And
because
I
these villains can be strong.
yeah,
They're just scared to show the OP of it.
I think this falls in line with development. We need to see a natural progression of a character's ability before they reach their full potential.
Right.
Um, this is why one of the reasons why I think Captain Marvel is among, in my opinion, probably the worst Marvel movie. One of the worst. Sorry, one of the worst Marvel movies. I apologize. Just because.
Dark World.
Uh, yeah. Um, and I yeah. So because she's so powerful to begin with. And Brie Larson, of course, it's a very talented actress. She won an Academy Award for a reason. But the direction they gave her with that character is horrendous. Was horrendous. Like she did not give a good performance, and I don't know if maybe their intention was to have her be this sort of like robotic or like mindless character who slowly uncovers her past, which I think was probably the intention. But I hate that so much, and this is sort of kind of a theme we talked about in Loki, where um, like all of the hunters from the TVA, their line deliveries are weak. And of course, the justification, well, maybe they're just so focused on their job, or they purposely don't have emotions, and they're just trying to show how the TVA manipulates every single one who find themselves in the organization. There's plenty of in canon explanation for why. I'm just not a huge fan in that direction. Others will happily disagree, and again, I think disagreements are necessary for conversation. Um, though I will say, going back to what I said about sort of the whole direction. Conversely, every side character here, it's fine. Yelena, I really like. Red Guardian, um, had like one funny line. It's just David Harbour's Russian accent was a bit off, like a bit off at times, but like it was just a Marvel movie. Like I
Yeah.
can't really like nothing is inherently like awful about the movie other than the very poor looking CGI in the third act, which
Also,
for
it
some
is.
reason it's a trope for Marvel. I don't know why, but
He's making it even simply more. I guess more simple. Oh my god, much more simpler. My god, simpler for me. Uh,
hmm
struggling here with some words. This for me is a Yelena origin story, and that's why I rate it high. That's simple. For me, you look at it as a Yelena origin story more so than a send off for Natasha. it increases the film for me. That's just what it comes down to. And
Absolutely.
Red Guardian, good character, good. I think we both agree, good, not great, good. Um, Dreykov as a villain, eh. I mean, like there's just too much going on in the MCU that goes unexplained for too long, right? So like we have a
That.
super soldier that's
Yeah.
just sitting in a prison in Russia, right? We
Mm-hmm.
have the Black Widows that this whole time could never find out Hydra still existed, right? Or did
I,
Jacob even care? So why not have it that explained, right? Why did Jacob not care that Hydra was around,
it's
or
just
did he
so
even know,
yeah.
right?
It's just
You
I
know,
hate
it's just
yeah.
there's too much.
Like
Like I mean, did I almost feel like Black Widow undermined Falcon and Winter a little bit. The whole purpose of I'm sorry, Falcon and Winter is these vials should create more super soldiers. We don't want more super soldiers. Then there's one in Russia just sitting in prison,
yeah.
or at this point, there's one just out there. Like, where is Red Guardian this whole time? It's been 7 years, or well,
More so.
right now they're in
By that
2024, so
point.
it's been eight
No,
years.
you're. Yeah, you're. So, yep.
2024. So 8 years. What the hell was Red Guardian doing this whole time?
Um, you
I don't know.
know,
I'm not a fan of that.
Loki finale. This week. Wednesday. No, I'm joking.
Spoiler: Red
Uh,
Guardian is in the castle.
yeah.
That'd be
But
crazy.
like, it's just. I think one of the issue, like one of the main issue I have, like Dreykov was such a like an uninteresting villain. He gave like like the typical like monologue. Oh, I could have killed you. I have you under my control. And then, there was like such a terrible, like honestly, probably the one of the worst lines I ever heard. It was like you remember it, where like, Scarlet or Natasha goes, like break the nerve or whatever. Like he
Mm-hmm.
basically like he's like, yeah, break the nerve, and he's just like smashed her nose on the table. I was like, what the hell? Why would you write that for her? Like that was so cringeworthy. I was like, what? Because I thought maybe she would say something more.
I mean, I definitely like. I was like, whoa. I mean, I would
Yeah,
say cringes and like weird. I would say cringes and like, damn, what the fuck?
yeah, yeah. I mean, like obviously, like the I cannot imagine dislocating your nose, but like I just don't know why she would explain that. To, you know what? At the end of the day, uh, I understand what you're saying. I agree that this works more as a Yelena movie. But again, this has Black Widow, and the name is will forever be attached to Natasha Romanoff
Right.
or Scarlett Johansson. So, um, but I think I am excited for the future of Yelena. And of course, there is a certain post-credit scene, and what were your thoughts on what they showed? I think the post-credit scene is phenomenal.
I
I,
think
I,
so. I
better than the movie,
so I want to give out one quick theory. Since you're just finishing off with the Natasha comment,
of course.
I don't think Scarlet Joe slash Natasha is done in the MCU. Via multiversal, I think we will get her back. It will be a different arc, a different Natasha as a whole. And remember, I I don't think this is what they're doing now. I don't think Kevin Feige is purposely putting out shitty product because he thinks the multiverse can fix it, right? But do keep in mind they can do so if they need to,
Y-
right? So
yes,
Taskmaster can be fixed with the multiverse. Natasha's uh, story can continue with the multiverse. Yelena's arc can be improved by Natasha still being alive via the multiverse with the multiverse. Is that the plan? No. Should it be? Absolutely not, because you don't depend on things like that.
so
But
I yeah, yeah, yeah.
I hold out hope that it's possible to fix
So
whatever happens.
what I will say is that if they were going the multiverse route to bring in an alternate version of characters, bring an alternate version of Tony Stark, I would have no issue, because one, it would not undermine the original Tony Stark sacrifice in Endgame. Number two, I want to see him interact with Reed Richards. I'm sorry.
So
I
I
cannot.
don't know if they find a way to
That
bring him
yeah.
back, bro. Like,
I because
I,
Robert Downey, respectfully to him, he's not busy. He's not doing anything other than producing an HBO series right now. Maybe he has like
yeah, I
future
mean, they
or
could.
and
There's
producing
there's
a
projects
TV
they'd want to
film.
have Iron Man involved in, right? Like Secret Wars and things like that. I mean, even with oh my God, the
Ironheart,
Nick Fury series,
Secret Invasion.
Secret Invasion's coming too. So I mean, they got some options. So options are out there for sure. I don't disagree, and I wouldn't mind them back. I I will say this, and I think this is what you're saying too. If you bring them back, they better do it the right way.
Yes,
There's, and I don't even know it. You don't even know. Seriously, I don't think anybody knows what that right way is.
neither do I.
We'll find out when that's presented to us. Like I will
Exactly.
decide at that moment.
Yeah, that was a
Okay,
good decision.
this is
Or
like
yeah,
maybe Reed Richards being involved helps.
yeah. I want to
So
see him interact, man. I
they,
really
they
do.
gotta.
But
We'll see
you're
some AI. I
yes,
think we'll see some AI with them.
you are absolutely right. I think Marvel needs to play their cards correctly.
It's
And
a
what you're
very
saying,
fine line because that
yes,
arc, the Infinity arc, had a fine purpose in the end of it, right?
yeah.
So
So I mean, I said before, Tony's arc ended by Iron Man 3.
yeah, well,
Like
sacrifice
overall.
was purely
No, I. Oh, I'm sorry. You go ahead, bro.
no,
I
no, I'm
didn't mean to
saying
interrupt you.
sacrifice is literally like I was the guy that created the Avengers and I needed to be the one to save the Avengers, right? Like that's what that was
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
for
yeah.
sure. His arc was
And
done.
yeah,
I
and of
agree.
course, yeah, Antonio is again among the higher tier characters in the Marvel MCU. Sorry, um, like it's just interesting. But nevertheless, I definitely don't want to sort of get off topic.
Yeah,
Um, but actually, it's kind of funny because maybe this was a bit of a change, but we can sort of connect back to my original question, uh, which pertains to sort of the future of the MCU, more specifically, what the future has for Yelena. And that future is hinted at in the post-credit scene shown,
right.
uh, after the movie was over. So I was curious, sort of one, uh, what your overall thoughts are. Number two, uh, how do you think X? I don't want to sort of spoil it. You'll be explaining, but how does X, Y, and Z? How do you think X, Y, and Z will play out?
So we'll go through the post credit scene. Super big, heavily spoiled, heavy spoiler here. Okay, saying it. Shaking my hands. You guys looking? Still going? Okay. Post credit scene is Yelena at. This is obviously post blip at this point. After Natasha's sacrifice in Endgame, Yelena goes to visit her grave. Says, "Sister Avenger," um, and then Valentina from Falcon and Winter Soldier, the woman that appeared to get John Walker recruited for something, which is something we've been debating on this young podcast for a little bit. Valentina goes up to Elena, already seemingly having some kind of relationship with Elena. Okay, so obviously at this point we can assume Elena's already a part of what we, Matt and I think is either the Dark Avengers or the Thunderbolts. Thaddeus Ross. Now I'm leaning more towards Dark Avengers.
I want to say so as
And
well.
I say this for a reason. We know why, because something else happens in the post credit. Did you know they came out with a Marvel one shot with Phil Coulson and Jasper Sitwell? Did you ever
The,
watch that?
the Marvel one shot.
So
What do you
Marvel
mean?
one shot is an added scene they add to they feel will be fitting to the MCU canon, right? The Marvel one shot is Phil Coulson and Jasper Sitwell after Incredible Hulk saying that Thaddeus Raw, no, who is it? I'm sorry. Shield wants Abomination from Thaddeus, essentially, like to get us lean more towards the She-Hulk
Oh,
series. Okay,
oh.
and I'll send you the video in a bit. So basically, it's Phil Coulson saying Shield wants Abomination. Ross has him, we don't want him. Like so Sitwell and Coulson did not want him. The Security Council wanted Abomination, the World Security Council. So in that scene, Sitwell's like, well, if we don't really want him, meaning Shield, we need to piss Ross off so Ross says no. Who can we send to piss Ross off? Cut scene. Post credit scene with Stark going up to Ross to piss him off. Because we added that post credit scene. I don't know if you
Yeah.
remember. So basically, they sent Stark to piss Ross off so Ross could say no to sending Abomination to Shield, which is just crazy. So I I don't think Ross has anything to do with Valentina. I think he's his own entity just based off of that scene in itself,
True.
right? So if that's the case, there's only one other option we're leaning towards, which is Dark Avengers. Which if those who don't know, a lot of the Avengers in this comic line, and I think there's multiple comic lines with Dark Avengers, but in one of the comic lines, the Avengers are essentially hunted and either prison, sent to prison, or well, I guess essentially sent to a prison, not a literal prison, or killed. And in this post-credit scene in Black Widow, Valentina says, "I have a job for you. Do you want to get the guy that killed your sister?" Meaning Natasha. And the picture is of Clint Barton. And do recall, like right now, the Avengers are in shambles. We've got Falcon that went through all he went through. Technically, he's still an Avenger, yes. Winter Soldier is not an Avenger, for all we know. He's just a guy that kind of works for the government. And to this point, Sam isn't really calling himself an Avenger right now either. We got Scarlet Witch out on the run. Who knows what the hell's going on with Doctor Strange? It seems like he's going through some shit right now. He couldn't show up in WandaVision.
Mhm.
Um, and as far as we know, Loki's just not around. Or not Loki, I'm sorry, Thor. Thor's just not around. Uh, Bruce is in shambles, and arguably with Abomination being confirmed in She-Hulk, Bruce is bound to get hunted down as well. So, man, Valentina's got some dark thoughts, if you want to call it, with the Dark Avengers, right? But yeah, I don't know what your thoughts as well, man.
Um, yeah, she would definitely make for an interesting antagonist for the Hawkeye series. Though chances are both characters will make up and say, listen, Clint will say, listen to my side of the story. I did not do this to Natasha. We're on Vormir. She sacrificed herself to save me, as well as the rest of the universe, etc. Um, so I imagine she might just be the antagonist for the first few episodes, the first three possibly, which can explain why Hawkeye enlists the help of Kate Bishop, since they're on the run constantly. I'm not sure if you saw a concept art that was released way back when of both Kate Bishop and Hawkeye or Clint, whatever you want to refer to him as, um, in a car going down, like or basically a red car going downhill, with their bow and arrows out. So they clearly they might be on the run for a temporary period of time. And we also saw from I'm not sure if you saw as well, but there's like leaked set photos of criminal organizations that made an appearance from the comics, Hawkeye comics specifically,
Right.
opening fire on Kate Bishop and Hawkeye. So perhaps Yelena is hiring these organizations to sort of
How do you know?
do
I mean, Kate Bishop may be working with Elena at first.
who knows.
I mean, Elena could have said, they know how valuable it is to have a master archer. Kate could have just been trained as a widow as a master archer, and
Or
and
sort of
somehow they,
hired, yeah, or
you don't
hired to
know,
get or hired to get close to Clint.
to
Perhaps
some
they
degree,
offer
right?
her,
Until she learns who he is,
yeah,
and
perhaps they
positive
offer,
things
yeah,
happen.
perhaps they
Right,
offer a bunch. I'm not familiar with Kate Bishop's backstory, but let's assume she's impoverished and needs to take care of her family. Perhaps she'll
right,
like provide her opportunity to say, hey, listen, I heard you're a fairly good archer. Well,
right,
I also know someone. Get close to him and wait until he's as most vulnerable, so I can attack or you can.
right.
Maybe they might not go that direction, but again, there are a number of
There's,
possibilities
I think it'll be
for sure.
dope if they started off the Hawkeye series with him just being like basically gunned down by Yelena's crew, right? Like
Yeah,
it'll be absolutely crazy, and
I will.
I'm excited to see where they explore with it.
Yeah, absolutely. What else? So, since we're on the topic, I it's not necessarily a change because if anything, Hawkeye is a continuation of what we see in Black Widow for the Elena character. That is. Um, do you think Black Widows or well, two things? Do you think the Black Widows as well as Ronin will be explored? So Black Widows obviously from the organization, and then
Mm.
Ronin, well, which is a flashback, which would be like a flashback to when he was that sort of figure in the 5 year gap. So, what do you
Yeah, I
think?
mean, there'll definitely do some backstory and some I think a lot of what he's going to be dealing with in the Hawkeye series is ramifications from being Ronin, right? I mean, he essentially killed terrorists. He killed uh, drug traffickers. I mean, every evil thing that was going on in the quote unquote normal world, he killed someone in them. So you don't just get away with that, right? Like there, the whole series will be literally everyone, including Yunena, wanting him dead. That's a guarantee. That's a fact. And the why would be cool. So I think you and I talked about in private as well. A Ronin prequel series would be awesome. I think literally a 6 to 8 episode series with each episode being called Yakuza. We see the Yakuza in Endgame. Uh, Taliban, episode 2, Taliban. You know, every major leader he tried to hunt down, how and when he did it, straight action. Can you imagine that?
Like yeah, like an
Can you
anthology
imagine
series.
that? A literal anthology series. It's almost Mando-ish, like
Yeah,
bounty hunter-ish, right? That would be a hell of a series. They can't do that now with Hawkeye. I think it's going to be a little Kate Bishop and Yelena and other things focused. But God, give us a Ronin prequel. Uh, Man, that that end game
I
scene was
yeah.
probably one of the better scenes. Him hunting down the Yakuza.
I will say I would love for the first episode just to be him as Ronin.
I love it. Not
That
even a
would be
question.
an amazing pilot
That
episode.
that would it would, and you know why? Because it's going to tell us why everybody's hunting him down now. Like
And
this
then yeah,
this is what
exactly.
he did.
So
This is the ramifications of it. This is who suffered from it. This is why they want him dead because of it.
yeah,
And
sort
it's
of
not
see
just
yeah,
Yelena. I think Yelena is going to turn back to his side eventually. We all kind of respect that.
yeah.
But I listen, brother. I'm beyond excited for the Hawkeye series for sure. And this is obviously with the post credit scene was a huge setup for it. And again, I think this film as a whole was a setup for future projects in the MCU in general. Red Guardian's got some a little more explaining to do with this super soldier that he's got going on. So we'll get that, and we're gonna get obviously some more Yelena hopefully in the future as well. And do remember Kevin Feige did make his comment that he's done with multi-year contracts. He wants people to sign on film by film because they're genuinely interested, and I think he's gonna multiverse them out if that's not gonna work. So I'm good with that. I don't want them to only be there for the money. I don't want them to only be there for what they think's going to be successful. No, you make it successful, right? Like you come in here as a character. Don't depend on the MCU to make you great. You make the MCU even better than what it is.
Yeah,
That's where
I
your
mean,
job should be.
yeah, I think chances are they'll probably be like writing multiple iterations of scripts to involve certain like maybe they have like a set amount of characters in mind for certain movies or series, and then they'll adjust it accordingly if actor declines the opportunity. Um, because I guess in a way they're in a contract because the actors or actresses are working under Disney. But I would agree. I agree with the decision not to have multi-year contracts or multi-movie contracts because there's so much pressure involved, and you have a literal obligation to them. There's nothing you can get out of.
Right.
And I'm sure everyone in the MCU wants to explore different projects and not be stuck playing the same character for years. It may be sort of they may have passion and it can feel rewarding to play a character uh that can affect audiences emotionally and Marvel fans emotionally. but it goes tiresome, and unless like the director or screenwriters are giving them sort of new stories to work with, they'll get bored eventually. That's what happened with Hemsworth,
Right.
and then we obviously saw him sort of reignite the passion he had for the character in Ragnarok,
Right.
courtesy of Taika Waititi.
Well,
So
totally. And to piggyback off that quick comment, I I think it's totally a two-way street. It's one, you know, one side of the street is we want you, we meaning Marvel Studios, want you to be genuinely excited for this film. As an actor or an actress, we want you to bring your best self to make this even more elevated. Part two is the Marvel Studios has to do this correctly for them as well, with directing, with writing. It's absolutely a two-way street in the sense that like you can't just expect one side to do better than the other and make the other better. You work together to make it one great film and make that person and then the studio excited to continue to work together. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
I don't want Brie Larson to continue Captain Marvel if she genuinely hates it. You know, and honestly, with all the feedback she's gotten, at least seen on social media, everybody's kind of the same accord with us. Like they're super underwhelmed with that film. So she could easily just become more disinterested because of stuff like that. No, lock in, get Marvel Studios to wake the hell up and get this next film popping. That's the job of the studios is to make it great. And it's totally a two-way street. I'm with you on that for sure. But we are running out a little bit of time here. Uh, Listen, again, Black Widow for myself, just a great film only because of me seeing it as a Yelena origin story, along with it being the first film in theaters in quite some time. I'm so excited for Loki episode 6 coming up on Wednesday. We're obviously going to do an episode with that, bring Derek on. Um, and Shang-Chi's coming, baby. We got Shang-Chi coming later on the fall. We got Eternals and then straight into Spider-Man. 3 more Marvel films
So
this year.
yeah. Also, we have a little show called What If in
Oh
August.
yes, oh yeah, oh definitely get into that. I'm just speaking movie wise, but yeah, What If is coming as well. The Hawkeye series is obviously coming as well.
Oh, forgot about that. Yeah,
Miss Marvel should be
Miss
coming in
Marvel.
late this year as well. I think it's gonna be
Yeah,
coming before Spider Man.
yeah, yeah. It's
Um,
crazy. A lot
we
of
got
content.
a literal shit ton of content coming, which all of us are just super excited for. So we can be heroes is here to stay, baby. We doing this thing week by week, day by day, as much as we can, and we're gonna bring as much as we can to you guys. That you're all welcome to come in and talk about it as well and argue with us. So, Matt, of course, you want to tell them where they can find you?
Yeah, it's gonna be Instagram Matt underscore T 29. As always, thank you for the support and for getting through sort of the blank screens that happen over off cam, trying to sanitize and blow my nose. I didn't want that to sort of disrupt anything John was saying, and obviously, I'm surprised I did not sneeze once throughout the entire time. So I am very impressed with myself. Again, thank you for the support. We are going to continue making content for you guys. We have the Loki finale coming up. We plan on taking this a small break. Bad Batch is still taking a little bit to catch up on. There's a lot of episodes. Obviously, there's 16 overall, so it is difficult to sort of. I mean, we go off on a lot of changes, so maybe it's not that difficult, but there's a ton of content to discuss within a 20-minute episode, a 26-minute episode, even. But eventually, when that series ends, we'll be doing a full review on everything as a whole. But yeah, there's sort of a bit of insight on what to expect from us. So thank you again.
Yeah, of course, you guys can find me over at John underscore OTS on all platforms. Head over to youtube.com/OTS guys and uh, drop a subscribe. Every view you guys give us, we truly, truly appreciate it. Love this Weekend Be Hero stuff, baby. Listen, we out here. You know what I mean? More stuff is coming nonstop. We got Marvel, Star Wars, so much content coming for you guys. We love it. We're excited for it. We're going to continue to give our reviews. Mostly wrong, mostly right. You guys will hate it. You guys will love it. But you know what? You're always going to love us. We can be heroes. Peace.
Peace.